Welcome to another episode of the Embodied Union podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Lindsay.
And today we're going to talk about sex dates, the best gift a man can give his woman.
Absolutely.
And what it takes to be an awesome lover. And how potentially you might need to put everything you think you know in the bin.
In the bin.
In the bin. Where do you want to start? Actually, I'm going to start with a question.
Okay.
How was your morning?
I had a very good intimacy morning. And what I realized in that also is that that's not everyone's experience, is getting to have really, really delicious, heartfelt, heart-opening intimacy with their partner on a regular basis.
I was having a thought as well that, because we're quite busy, we both have our businesses and we're working, and say this week we've just had sex once, it might even be once this fortnight, and I was like, because it's so quality.
I didn't even realize that.
But it's like, it's not a pain point, It's like, I'd rather have sex with you once a week where we really put the effort and the time, we leave a whole block of time free for it, and we're really present and we're not distracted. I'd rather that once a week than just trying to do it at the end of every night or multiple times a week just because we think that we should. And it's it's quality over quantity.
Always. Always. And I listened to a podcast recently where it talked about, because I want to mention this before I forget, but the unknown desire in a female for choosing a partner that they didn't put down on paper but agreed upon as being the number one was good in bed. Their partner to be good in bed.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I think if you asked a lot of women, their answer probably wouldn't be that. So it's interesting that this study found that the deeper truth,
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
It really does. And I think of all the men that do want to be great lovers, and I do work with a lot of those men, and often at times it's got nothing to do with what happens in the bedroom and everything to do with what's happening outside of it.
What I know is the best sex or the best intimacy that we ever have is always dependent on my state of being. And so if our relationship is feeling really connected and amazing and beautiful and clean, when we come together for intimacy and there's nothing really in the way, I have a better time, So it's so true. Everything that's happening outside of the bedroom is what lays the foundation for the most satiating, connecting, deep, pleasurable experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, and I reflect on this because I literally even got a call 2 days ago from a man that I'm not actually working with, but just asked. I set up a date night and it really just fell down. I tried to take my partner out, and it ended up just not working. All the dominoes fell in the wrong direction, basically. And so often, and what I reminded him, it's just around making sure that those relationship house cleaning is cleaned up. It's if the house is a mess, metaphorically, then it's really hard to have intimacy, because a woman's everything is happening always, all the time for a woman. She can't stop thinking about everything. So it's how much can we just clear what's in the way?
I like how we always say, when couples aren't having sex, stop trying to make sex happen and actually figure out what's the deeper truth, what's actually going on in the relationship that needs healing, so that there is room and space and want for sex and intimacy. Because it's often sometimes it's about lack of sex, but often it's not.
It's about unspoken words and unspoken needs and desires.
Broken agreements, hurt feelings.
All the things that are in the way. And I just think, man, if I was in a relationship and I'm trying to be intimate over the top of any of that, it's not as good. It's it's not even as good for me. It's not satisfying. And I think that's probably one of the biggest blind spots for men is they're wanting sex and they might even be having sex, but not feeling nourished by it because it's from a deficit, it's from a lack, or it's from a space of not really truly being present. And it's kind of the hopefulness of intimacy in their relationship, trying to get it, you know, having that desire over the top of having the relationship be clean and clear and integral.
I think that's a really good kind of segue into what I posed at the very beginning around like the best gift, besides both being willing to do their relationship housekeeping, but one of the best gifts a masculine partner can give his feminine partner is to have healed and integrated any neediness around sex. Because like you're saying, if there's that, like, if it's coming from, if we're having sex, but what's fueling that is really this scarcity or lack, like that can be felt and it's awful. I know from my experience, like feeling my partner's neediness is the biggest turn off and the biggest cock block. Nothing will shut up my shop faster than feeling like there is some kind of pressure or agenda or it's takey. And so I'd love for you to speak into your experience, having shared with me that you used to feel quite needy around sex and you've healed a lot of that, and I can really be a testament to that because 2.5 years with you, I have never felt that from you. I've never felt neediness around sex.
And I think I just want to drive that home one more time around, like, guys really have a hard time, pun intended, hearing that from me. Like when I spoke to that at a workshop that I ran recently, it was like, you never hit your girlfriend up when you're horny. When do you hit her up? And it's like, when I deem it's like a good time and when I'm present enough. But the truth of it is that the horniness creates the deficit or the hunger, and the hunger and the deficit creates a lack of presence. So we think we're more present, but it's a fine line of neediness that's going to play out in your lovemaking and in your sex or your intimacy if it's being fueled by horniness. That's my take.
So are you coupling neediness with horniness?
At times I do. Because often what I notice in men that I speak to and that I've worked with over the years, it's like an insatiable desire comes over them that's impulsive and they feel like they need to act upon it. And so in my model, in a way, it's synonymous, the feeling of neediness and horniness. Because when you're actually in deep desire with your partner, when I'm with you and I'm in my deepest desire, I'm actually not needy.
But are you horny?
I'm present. I wouldn't even say that. It's like I can't quite articulate what it is, but it's like I'm letting, and I'm going to sound like bloody Chris Bale here. It's like
Chris Bale's the best.
I'm letting spirit come through me. You know, it's like
Chris Bale's so good.
It's that like allowing the energy and what wants to come through. Like sometimes it'll be sweet, and other times it'll be intense, and it'll be all the range that you know I have, and I trust that, but there's not an intention, as in there's not like an expectation, I should say.
Maybe agenda.
That's the better word. There's no agenda and there's actually no expectation. If it stopped at any point, for any reason, say we're outside and we're making love and a bird hits the window, I'm okay to stop. Like I don't have this thought of like, I have to orgasm, it has to look a certain way.
I just want to add in there, it doesn't have to be a bird hitting the window, but if I said to you, I'm just done now, or like I'm a bit numb now, or I'm a bit in my head now, like no matter what, as soon as if my body moves into I'm a bit done now, you're so fine with that. You know, like if a bird hits the window, it's okay to stop. But it's like just knowing as well, like I can just, if I become a no, it's like I've never had you take that personally or make that a problem.
Yeah.
It's just cool, babe. And then sometimes because of my experience, I might go into my head that it's going to be a problem because that's what I've experienced. And there might be a bit of tentativeness, but I always will honor my no, and I just keep being met. I keep getting the evidence from you that like you're not attached.
And I'm usually, I would say, pretty aware of knowing if you've started to, something's changed in you. Because I think one of the biggest things I also want to say around this is you are only ever experiencing your partner through your own sensitivity. So this is for the men out there, say if they're in a heteronormative relationship, you are only ever experiencing the pleasure from your partner through your own body. So my premise here is that men should be working on sensitivity, not sensation. So your ability to be present about what is actually happening and how good it feels in your body and how good she feels in your body is the way to keep present with your partner, such that if she starts to become a no, you would feel that no a mile away.
Well, I think if you're truly present with me, you know, like it's the same, it's for me as well. If I'm really in my body and in my presence, and I notice that you may have gone into your head, I'll feel it immediately. And I think women really do. There's like a subtleness that we just know. And then if like you're physically with me, you're like fucking me, you're with me, but where's your heart? Like, where are you? Like, I know. And it's amazing to have you as my partner, have a man sit here and say that you, like, your sensitivity is aware of the subtle shifts in my body. And I love that. I love that you can call out if something's like, you'll often say to me, you're done now. Are you done? And I'm like, maybe we just need to change something up. But it's like your awareness of my experience is really a gift as well.
Yeah, because it gives her it has you stay present as well. And it's like a check-in, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, doesn't always have to look the same, doesn't have to be the same way. This is what I'm also encouraging men is like, have range, you know? You can be hard, you can be soft, you can touch them firmly, touch them lightly, you know, and everything in between. So it's like there's constant anticipation and there's not newness, but it's like a level of exploration and fun and play.
And I just want to say, when you're truly present, that is actually how you kind of bring in newness and novelty. Because if you're truly present to the moment could never have happened before. And it's like, because when you're in a long-term relationship, obviously like the novelty wears off, honeymoon phase wears off, but you can create novelty and newness by just being really present to what's happening right now, because it is a new moment. It's never happened before. It's only when you're in your head that you think you're in routine, or like that's where the story is.
Well, that's the remembering the story self, right? And that, you know, in my studies of Hakomi, it's like the whole point is to be in the present moment, having the present experience be happening rather than the story. So if we go into routine is very much about the story. We know what is already going to happen. This is what's going to happen next. This is how it always goes. And then we get bored and we switch off. And I know for women, don't do anything that makes her bored.
Don't bore me.
Don't bore her.
And it's on me as well, though.
Totally.
You know, like it's definitely a collaboration. Like I can bore myself, you know, like if I'm choosing to be up in my head thinking about what I have to do or what's coming up in work or a client, like anything like that, it's really a collaboration of us both doing our best to be in the present moment.
Yeah, so I think...
Hang on, I really want to come back to a question I asked you that I don't feel like we really answered, but how did you heal neediness? Because you have told me in your past you have been needy in sex, and now I don't experience that from you. And if a man is listening and he's like, well then, like, how the fuck did you actually do it? That's a really valuable piece of information.
All right, so if you want to sign up to our Patreon, no. There's two parts to this that I've started to realize, because I used to just say that it was taking a vow of celibacy, I should say. Vow of celibacy. So yeah, a declaration and agreement made about celibacy, and inside of celibacy, you can do absolutely no self-touch, self-pleasure, and do abstinence, which is what I did.
So you did full abstinence, no self-touch or self-pleasure?
None. And no sex and no kissing. And
you were in a relationship at the time?
Yes. And so for a month, and that worked really well. And then we took a 3-month celibacy in the relationship. And
not abstinence.
Yeah, not abstinence.
Second 2 months.
Yeah. And so what I would describe to men around that is, and because most men have fasted with eating, it's the first meal that you miss, the first week or two of missing it.
Maybe even just first couple of days.
Can be painful and can be like a bit overwhelming and brings up a lot. And from that stage, it then seems to subside quite quickly. And then it just becomes this new feeling of like, oh, that feeling I have of neediness or of wanting sex, it's not so strong anymore. It comes on differently. It's like doing a fast kind of heals a part of the gut. It gives the gut an opportunity to rest. And I think inside of that too, what I also want to add is that there's a big element of codependency.
If you're needy for sex, you're codependent.
I think there's correlation here. So the work that I'm doing now and the study that I've also done sort of leads me to realize that there's a part of that as well, having the other person meet the need. And it's a young part, and I'm not saying that the young part of me was sexualized, but it's the wanting somebody else to meet my hunger. Can you please satisfy me, instead of me realizing that I can satisfy myself? And that's not saying that I need to self-pleasure, because my self-pleasure practice is no greater now than it was before. It's not like, oh, well, if you won't have sex with me, I'll just go and sort myself out. Because it's not actually that. It was actually me just coming to realize that the energy that I'm feeling, I can put into other things. I can put into my training. I can put it into my business. I can use that like desire and striving and wanting and use it for more productive things. And that was something that I think takes a little bit more time. But I think the most powerful way to stop neediness for men is just go a bout of abstinence or celibacy in your relationship. And watch what happens. Watch what happens with your partner. Watch what happens with yourself as far as creating connection that doesn't go anywhere.
In a previous relationship, we did that. We both took a vow of celibacy in our relationship, and it was the first time that I got to experience being in connection and affectionate and loving, but without any pressure for sex. And for me, I'd been coming from feeling very blocked to sex and a very low libido, and I felt like I had to just show up for sex because it's what my partner wanted, and it was this really big pain point. And that experience of just taking it off the table for a month, it was like Christmas came early. It was very healing. And what I also find really interesting is you're saying, for you and potentially for men, when you take it off the table, it brings something up. Like it's actually going to expose something. And
it is.
It's like, I wonder how many men would actually have the skills. I know the men you work with, this is what you do with them, but to really turn towards and look at like what is being brought up, like what is driving the neediness, potentially the codependency, but actually rather than just like try and band-aid over it with something else, it's just like, it's a really beautiful opportunity to do your internal work by like, oh shit, my stuff is coming up now, and how can I sit in it, look at it, inquire deeper.
Because it's okay to have needs. This is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying you should have no needs in a relationship, because that's a terrifying thought. And I know that culturally it's more celebrated that men don't have needs, that we should be needless and just self-sufficient and self-reliant all the time. And I think that creates a lot of potential resentment in relationship if we are being self-reliant and feeling the resentment of our partner not meeting those needs. So speaking to the needs is really important as well. And also, when we have needs, it's about actually expressing them and allowing our partner and collaborating with our partner on those needs. As far as well, look, I do want sex, and if sex isn't possible, what's the thing that I actually want that's underneath sex? Is it connection? Is it satisfaction? Is it pleasure? Am I meeting those needs elsewhere in my life, such that is sex actually the thing that I want? Or is there a byproduct of sex that gets me to something that I could get to without sex? Because the last thing I want men to experience in their relationship is using their partner for sex. And I think maybe that's an advanced thought, but it's I feel like we create distrust and dis-ease in our relationship if we're using our partner for sex. I really want to drive this home that it should be a collaboration. Sex should be something that creates more safety, more trust, more respect, and those key qualities in relationship, and not doing any sort of damage to the relationship where we say yes when we mean no, and we cross our partner's boundary because of our own neediness, or we pressure our partner, or try and create a boundary or commitments or set up agreements that have pressure and expectation around them. I think at times that can cause a lot of disconnect in relationship. And I just think it's a real sore spot in relationship overall. I think these days people are more and more stressed. Feels like people are more stressed than ever. And sex feels like it's the most disconnected it is. And I would really love to have couples learn the skills of relationships such they can have amazing, thriving relationships and 3-hour sex dates.
So I also just want to, it's so true, we still have needs in relationship, and sex is a really beautiful part of relationship. And it's you have this person that you get to do that with. And if you're into monogamy, it's you have this one person that you get to experience this with. So I think it could be valuable to really talk about, because I know for myself, everything I thought I knew about sex got to go in the bin. And that was actually the biggest relief, because I had been modeling sex off porn, and I got my sex education from porn, and men or boys who got their sex ed from porn. So for me, the gold was really learning about Tantra and learning about energy. And I remember also being so performance-based in sex, and it was such a relief when I realized it's not about performance or a technique or anything that you see in porn, and it really is, as we've alluded to, how present can you be? And when you're just so present with someone and you're connected to your own erotic energy, and you kind of have an idea around how more tantric practices work, that is good lovemaking.
That sounds really good. And I feel like I know what you mean, but I just wonder for the people that are listening, it's what is Tantra, or what is those sorts of things? And I guess some of the really basic stuff, and I know it sounds probably cheesy, but it's having you sit your partner, men, sit your partner in your lap and have your hearts close to each other, look into each other's eyes and breathe for 5 minutes.
There's a really delicious, the position Lindsay's talking about is yab yum. And it's not just any old lap sitting. It's like my legs are wrapped around him. So we're kind of like genital to genital, belly to belly, heart to heart, and we're eye to eye. And I know for lots of couples who are new to this style of intimacy, even just eye contact or even having your eyes open while you kiss
Lights on.
feel like a bit of an edge. But it's like, that's what you want, because when you're eye to eye with someone, it does invoke a level of presence. So it's like, oh shit, you're right here with
You're
me.
seeing me.
We're right here together. And like just spending some time at the beginning of your intimacy date in this yab yum, and you can Google it. It's a really beautiful position, very simple. You can use cushions to support you, but just starting there, eye gazing is very tantric. Breathing together, syncing the breath, and bringing in some like really subtle movements. Like for a woman who enjoys to inhabit her feminine energy, it can be really beautiful to like have really subtle circles with the hips, or almost like this rocking backwards and forwards of the pelvis. And like that.
Like this morning. Automatic.
Yeah, I know, like for myself, when my erotic energy is really turned on, these movements will happen, like it feels like it's out of my conscious control. And so if I want to kickstart my erotic energy, I can bring these movements into our practice while I'm in your lap in this beautiful position. And like you have access to my chest and my breasts. Your hands can be on my arms and in my hair and down my back. And like just sitting in yab yum for 15 minutes can be a practice complete. Like it doesn't have to go anywhere. Say you're struggling with penetration or there's some blocks around sex and you're just trying to reconnect with your partner. It's like 15 minutes in yab yum, breathing together, and then full stop. End of practice. That's totally fine.
And I so get that for some, that might be the most intimate thing you've ever done. You might have had sex your whole life and then realize after 15 minutes in yab yum with your partner doing that it was like, we've never even gotten close to the intimacy that we just touched, you know? And I think that's so important of like, can we hold that energy? Can we do it without, and laughing is fine, but notice, are we nervous? Are we being seen?
Are we feeling awkward about being so seen?
Yeah, you know, because that's the whole like nakedness that we want in relationship is like true vulnerability, true intimacy of seeing each other. Such a good practice, such a great thing to start with.
And I think just to share a couple of more practices that we really enjoy. So before I met you as well, my breasts were kind of overlooked, you know, like they're kind of a stop on the way to everything else. And me personally, mine were quite numb and shut down. But now it's like spending time with very light touch on the breasts and like on the nipples, but just taking your time to get there. Like for a woman, this is like her breasts are actually a doorway to her womb and to her pussy. Like it can ignite like lubrication. It's just like really being present and intentional with breast massage and like getting to know your own breasts, actually teaching your partner how you like to have them touched and like bringing sensitivity back to them. Like that can be a really beautiful way to like move from yab yum into some exploration of like your heart and your breasts. And another practice that we really like is like devotional massage. You know, like sometimes I don't feel like sex or I don't feel like penetration, but it's like I'm still open for intimacy though.
Yeah.
So I'd love to massage you. And often, because then I've taken the pressure off me having to do anything and I'm just really focused on giving you your pleasure, that it often will kickstart my own, you know? It's like I feel like I have to have, because I used to cross my body's boundary so many times, now in our intimacy, sometimes I have to just say no, just so my body can hear me say no. And it's like, oh, I'm safe to say no. And then it can turn into a yes.
Yes.
But like devoting to you through massage. And sometimes like it can just be a relaxation massage. But what I'm really talking about is like a devotional, sensual, erotic massage where I'm not necessarily trying to bring you to orgasm, but I'm going to devote to your cock, essentially. And you'll do the same for me, you know, like I love it when you sensually massage me. And like that's a very tantric practice because it's really about embodying the two, like whoever is giving is really in that masculine energy of really present and focused, and whoever's receiving is receptive and open in that feminine like relaxation. And bringing those two energies together is what creates the eros that gets to flow between us.
And I think that's important to sort of to create the distinction that we're not doing our partner a favor. It actually is devotion. You know, the intention behind the person giving it is from a place of love and care, and
it's not a chore. It's not like a box that I'm ticking.
No.
I think that's another really important point. It's like, if you don't respect your partner, then one, you have relationship housekeeping to do, because you have to respect your partner if you're going to lean into these kind of practices. Like, I would not want to devote to you if I didn't respect you, if there was too much water under the bridge and I actually just didn't like respect you as a man. It's like, I'm so glad that we have done relationship housekeeping since the very beginning, that we have no resentment that has built up. And I deeply respect you. The more I'm with you, the more I see you, the more I respect you, which makes me so open to you in the bedroom, for sure.
I think that is like one of the biggest key takeaways from this podcast episode, is that safety, trust, respect, that fertile ground of relationship has to be there. And like, that is better than any circular motion of your tongue is ever going to do in your relationship, is if you can create that basis, that environment in relationship. And I just want to add, there is a thing that I've spoken to a lot of men around, and it's also just the part in intimacy, which I think can be overlooked. And I know it's a little bit off center, but it's ensuring that if a man warms the woman up, that the woman please warm the man up. Just because he's hard doesn't mean that he's aroused, like he's ready. So it's just like, I do need to mention that, because I feel like sometimes there can be such a devotion to the woman, making sure that she's ready, such that when she's ready, now she wants the next thing. And for some men in particular, they need to be warmed up and ready also. And I get that guys need to be able to express that need and desire too. But I also feel like it's really important that both couples really honor their yes. And so they can also honor their no as well in relationship. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, if you can't honor your no, then your yes doesn't mean anything. You know, and I know there's a lot of women out there who cross their own boundary, say yes when they are a no, that sex does feel like a chore, like it's an obligation. And I've been in that's been my whole experience. And like that, it doesn't have to be like that, you know, like lovemaking gets to be this beautiful thing that brings you closer together, no matter whether you've been together 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter, because you can continue to have these tantric style intimacy dates where there's no agenda. It doesn't have to look like anything. It's just about presence and connection, and we see where it goes, and there's no pressure, and it gets to be this really beautiful exploration. So do your relationship housekeeping, do regular check-ins, set up intimacy dates. Don't just hope and wait for it to happen. Like, be very intentional with your relationship. What do you want it to look like? What do you want to explore in the bedroom? Are you open to talking about your wants, needs, and desires? Like Lindsay said, have range in the bedroom, but also know presence is also what brings in the novelty and the newness. You don't need somebody new or a new toy. You just need to be present.
Yeah.
That feels pretty complete for me. What do you think?
Loved it. Absolutely loved talking about this. And I'm so passionate about couples knowing this kind of work, knowing how to set their relationship up really powerfully and, you know, in a way that feels really awesome. And so that's what we do. That's what I do. I work with men and couples, and I know that you work with women and couples. And
we work together with couples, and it's a beautiful journey. And if you want to find us, you know, the Embodied Union podcast or Instagram, and I am Charlie S. Hannah on Instagram.
At Lindsay B at Instagram.
And that's us. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you, my love.